you ever think you'd have a 500 crore acquisition? What is the mindset kind of required to achieve that goal?
If I probably dreamt 1,000 crores, maybe I would have raised a lot more money. And I feel sometimes your dream limits your own ambition.
You started yoga bar from your kitchen, right?
My sister's like, after the yoga class, she's like, let's just call it yoga bar. And I'm like, let's trademark it. Whether we do it or not, we'll see. The biggest failure in businesses happen because we get overwhelmed with the He's obviously seen how hard I work. And I told him I have this trademark called Yoga Bar. And he's like, listen, take my money. If you make something out of it, give me shares. If not, like there is nobody else who's built a business with the amount of venture capital money that we've raised. And we've never been celebrity endorsed or anything. I would take that money and give it back to the consumer with a lower price. Most Googled question when we started Yoga Bar, is Yoga Bar an Indian brand? I think culturally as Indians, right, I find people really wanted me to win.
For so many entrepreneurs who are actually watching this, how do you take that idea for a product to the next level? I want to talk about the acquisition and the exit. Did you ever feel like you were selling a part of yourself? Today, I'm sitting across from a woman who did what most founders only dreamt of. Built a brand from her kitchen table and went on to sell it for over 500 crores after a bidding war. Suhasini Sampath is the co-founder of Yoga Bar, a brand that disrupted India's packaged food industry with one simple promise: make healthy eating affordable and accessible. In less than a decade, she scaled Yoga Bar into a household name and then negotiated one of the most talked about acquisitions in the Indian startup ecosystem. But this is not just a story about protein bars and packaging. It's about power moves, wealth creation, and what it really takes to build a business worth acquiring. From scaling strategies to boardroom negotiations and walking away with a 500 crore deal, Suhasini's journey is equal parts inspiring and provocative. And today, she's about to give us a masterclass in how to build that out. So tell me, take me back to the very beginning of your journey. You started Yoga Bar from your kitchen, right?
Yeah.
How did it happen? What was your first kind of product or eureka moment?
I was a chartered accountant and I went to do my MBA at LBS and then, exchange at Wharton. And while I was at Wharton, my sister and me used to go for the Bikram yoga classes. And after one such class, we used to always go and have a kind bar. And we used to love it. And, we got talking and we said, listen, there is no healthy product in India. And both of us were finance people, so we used to work late hours and there was just never anything healthy to eat. So we researched Kind bars and it turns out Kind is like $1 billion company back in the day. My sister's like, after the yoga class, she's like, let's just call it Yoga Bar. And I'm like, let's trademark it. Whether we do it or not, we'll see. And we trademarked the idea and then we forgot about it. We didn't really think about it at all. And after that, I wanted to be in hardcore finance, which meant private equity or investment banking, right? And I went about applying for like 400 jobs from campus, didn't get anything. Then I started applying for finance manager jobs, didn't get that also. And came back and said, listen, the world doesn't dictate this. I'm going to find a way myself. Called up a couple of my ex-colleagues from KPMG, said, let's just start an accounting outsourcing business. So we started an accounting outsourcing business. And my mom, as usual, because accounting outsourcing, clients are demanding, you're working late. She and me started making these bars at home and she would wrap it up and give it to me. And one day when I was eating it, it was a board meeting. Kanwal was next to me and he now heads Fireside, which is one of the largest consumer funds. And he said, Suhasini, what is that? And I'm just like, yeah, it's oats, millets, dry fruits. And, I'm just eating it because I want to feel full. And he said, how did you get this idea? And I said, have you not read about Kind bars? And I gave him that background. He was blown. So he was like, listen, here's a professional who's high trust because he's obviously seen how hard I work. She has a great idea. And I told him I have this trademark called Yoga Bar. And he's like, listen, take my money. If you make something out of it, give me shares. If not, I would have felt that I at least supported you in doing something, That's how the business came about.
Oh my God.
And when he did that, I made that call to my sister and I said, listen, do you remember we trademarked this name Yoga Bar? Here's news. Someone's willing to invest in that idea. I think it's time to pack your bags and come back to India. And my sister was kind enough at that point to just say, she just wrapped up her whole life.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was she?
She was in New York, actually. She was in New York working with EY in their M&A team. So she said, fine, if you're saying it, then maybe we can make it work. She came back and that's how we started.
Wow. Did you ever think you'd have a 500 crore acquisition?
I actually, I mean, it's a lot of money given the background where I come from, I've never thought in money terms. For me, like even a small amount's always enough. So I've never thought about it like that. Yeah, I mean, I knew I would work hard enough to reach the finish line, whatever that finish line meant for everyone participating in that journey, right? But yeah, I mean, it's panned out really well. It's actually done even better than the 500 crore because now when ITC finishes the transaction, the price is going to be higher because we've done really well, actually. I mean, the market's really rewarded us.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had that as that, I mean, I didn't quantify it in terms of money. I dreamt of 100 crore brand and we got very much ahead of that. So I sometimes tell myself, should I have dreamt larger? If I probably dreamt 1,000 crores, maybe I would have raised a lot more money, done a lot more aggressive stuff. But at that point of time, my dream was a 100 crore brand. And I feel sometimes your dream limits your own ambition.
That is so true, though.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. But for so many entrepreneurs who are actually watching this and tuning into this episode today, so many have an idea for a product. How do you take that idea for a product to the next level, which is probably level 1? And then how do you take that level 1 to level 100, where you're looking at an acquisition, where you're looking at a sellout in the hundreds of crores? I mean, there's no shortcut answer, of course, but you know, I want you to think of sort of like you were sitting at home. Think of a woman sitting at home, working on a product. What would you say to them?
I think you always have to start from a place of absolute curiosity. And you have to nail it down to specifics. The way my sister and me worked in our initial days is we used to have a laundry list of items to get through. Right from, okay, speak to branding agency today, speak to the bank on the loan, what are the government grants that are available to us? Have we finished that documentation? What is the production run we need to do today? Do we need to monitor our sales? What is competition looking like? When do you need to fundraise? So you have like a large laundry. And we used to get through a laundry list of 40 items a week. And it's like learning on the job. You understand that every day you will change a step, but you go deep into that step that you need to take. So even today, I operate exactly like that while I think about my next thing. I make a laundry list of things that need to get done. What's this brand going to be called? How do I want to package? What my packaging to look? What is the inspiration that I have? Who are the branding agencies I need to talk to? Is it typo-led? Is it design-led? Is it food-led? And then, how do I, what are the machinery required? How do you scale it? How much will it take me for the 0 to 10 crore journey? So what I'm essentially trying to say is you always build a business by breaking it down into steps that you can action and control. If you start thinking about the big picture on day 0, you would get very overwhelmed. What you need to control for is how do I do my 0 to 10 lakh sales? Like, so when we started, we didn't have any sales background, right? So we started with all the yoga studios in Bangalore.
Okay.
And then we started giving like healthy bars for Diwali. So, and then we spoke to Indigo and we said, listen, your crew probably needs bars because, you need energy while you're, flying and all of that. You need something that's easy, not messy. So Indigo gave us an order. So I'm saying you'll have to think about unique ways of generating sales, enough sales to kind of kickstart your business. The biggest failure in businesses happen because we get overwhelmed with the 0 to 1 journey. The 0 to 1 journey is always the hardest. Once you take the plunge, you'll make a list of points and you'll keep, because someone's always solved that problem before you. You're not going to be the first one to solve it.
What's a laundry list?
A laundry list is, an entire task list. Like it's a
like a to-do list.
It's a to-do list. It's a to-do list. Yeah, it's exactly a to-do list.
So tell me about, say, getting an order from Indigo. How did you make that happen?
So I use LinkedIn. So I was on LinkedIn. I would write an email. So you have to be okay to write 100 emails, get 20 responses, and get 1 accept. That's fine. That is the ratio. You should not get disappointed with the no's, but you keep trying. And I think culturally as Indians, right? I don't know, like for me at least, I find people really wanted me to win. And I've seen that as a uniform modus operandi, so to say, everywhere I've gone. Like even if somebody says no, they'll say like, I can't do this for you, but maybe I can do this, and maybe that will help you a little bit. People have not outrightly actually really refused. And at that point of time, if people see that you have genuine good interest, you are hardworking, and you're actually trying to make something better, people want to see you succeed. It's just cultural. And I feel like I've had that benefit. Like retailers would tell me that we want a woman brand, and we are glad you came and talked to us. And it's great that you're working in a category that nobody else is working in. So I feel like one has to be likable in the sense that be humble, be the kind of person that people want to see succeed. I think that's immensely helped me. I think it's immensely helped me in a lot of ways.
But do you think that's your mindset versus others' mindsets?
So I have this philosophy in life that if that's the mindset that you need to get from point A to point B, you jolly well adapt it. So, and I think you just can't go through life wearing blinkers. You'll have to see. You'll have to operate from your position of strength always, and what you're weak at. You've got to work on it. Like I feel like life is not here to excuse you for the things that you can't do. It's here to reward you for the things that you actually attempted to do properly. So as long as you have that equation and you operate from a mindset of outcome, I think most people will do quite well. Yeah.
Now, when you look back at your journey and you think of, that time when your mom made you the bar, that time in the boardroom, to kind of having that win of an acquisition, what are those 3 strategic decisions that you really think changed the trajectory that made this possible?
I think, I'll actually say that my childhood played a very large role in becoming this person that I am. I don't give up. And I feel like my parents always rewarded the effort and not the outcome. I'll give you an example. So I come from a very education first family, in the sense that my sister was a gold medalist. My second sister went to IIM. I was a CA ranker, but I have failed a chemistry test and I failed a Kannada test. And my mother would buy me ice cream only on those days. And she would say, I want you to always remember that you studied hard. And there's life should not give you a penalty when you've put in the effort. And that's my philosophy. Like, if you work and you just know that you can move forward, you'll move a little forward by taking different actions. And it's just simplified. It's just that. Like, if you take the actions needed, you will eventually get your outcome. You might move 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, but the next day you might move 5 steps forward. So I would say the number one thing that led to success was definitely the environment in which I grew up. I think the second thing that led to success was I was quite a realistic person, and I felt like I want everybody to win at that table. So I knew, like, at that point in time, the best outcome for my investors. I always kept everybody's interest in mind. So I kept my consumers' interest, I kept my investors' interest, I kept my employees' interest, I kept the brand's interest. And I would always weigh things in life saying, is the cumulative outcome for everybody on the table larger than a single outcome for me? Because I think we all have to walk that long journey. So a very long-term, trust-driven mindset. And I think that's immensely helped me. So to get consensus, it's easier to get consensus from a place of trust. And people who worked with me always trusted me. So that I would name as the second reason why I think I was able to go through this journey. The third reason is obviously just acceptance, being early on the idea of what the future would hold. I would say we were the pioneers in like today there are 100 brands, but to see it 6 years before anybody else is
that first mover advantage.
There is the first mover advantage. It's also very difficult. Category creators bear the brunt of having to do all the hard work, and everybody else comes in with either better marketing or all of that, right? They get to learn from your mistakes, which is not the position for a category creator. But I think we got a certain amount of love from our consumers because we always kept them in mind. We said, what is the best product that we can give you at this price? So yeah, I think that's probably the reason why I succeeded.
No, that's very interesting. But if you had to take it from your journey into actually when you were consciously thinking about what you wanted to build with your company,
Yeah.
what were you thinking of? What is
Yeah.
that sort of, let's talk about the mindset a bit, right? What is the mindset kind of required to
Yeah.
kind of achieve that goal?
I actually think that the mindset was to actually build the largest health food company in the country, whatever that meant over a period of time, right? I don't think it doesn't work for me personally to work with a certain sum of money or like an outcome, because I would think that would put tremendous pressure, and I'm not somebody who actually works very well if I have like that kind of motive. I work much better with this motive to just pursue excellence. I'm like, whatever I do today, I'll do the best possible job. And I'm motivated to work equally hard today as I was in the first day of Yoga Bar. Like, I would still be the person who logs into work first. I'm always on my phone and the last person to get out of work, right? And even if there is no compulsion to do it, I just think that you cannot leave work for tomorrow. So I feel the mindset of operation is what you need to excel. I don't think chasing a number is the right way to operate, because then you're just going to get disappointed. Because what if I thought of a far larger number? What if I decided to give up much sooner? Because, nowadays, every time you raise VC funding, you also get a secondary. So I feel like I think the mindset should always be have like your own professional satisfaction. Like, if you feel you've done a great job,
Yeah.
that's a far more constructive mindset.
Chasing brilliance.
Chasing excellence, yeah. Chasing excellence in everything that you do.
No, that's very interesting. What do you wake up in the morning and tell yourself every single day?
Actually, I'm an obsessive parent. So, I mean, I'm just obsessed with my kids. So I think my mornings are totally about just getting things ready for her. But I do remind myself every day of how grateful I am, given how satisfied an individual I am. And I've had this even when I was a child. I remember having a super happy childhood. Like, at one point of time, I would always tell myself that I must be the happiest person in this universe.
Oh my
and I used to
God.
feel almost like as if I could pass this on to everybody else, because this feeling that people in KPMG used to say Suhasini floats. Everyone else walks, but she floats, And I think it's just that, like, I have tremendous gratitude that despite all the things, and everyone has professional and personal turbulence, right? But through it all, I have this point of, like, just this what do they call it? Like, centering of the soul, that just reminds me that, oh my God, but I'm just such a lucky human being. I'm so lucky because I carry with me this energy to feel so happy every day. And that's a gift. Sometimes it's nature, sometimes it's nurture. In my case, I think whatever it was, whether it was my childhood, whether it's just this fact that I always think, everything's just going to work out. Almost delusional. My husband thinks I'm delusional most of the
Same.
time.
I completely relate to this because
Yeah.
my husband also thinks I'm very delusional.
Yeah.
And because my wallpaper says everything's rigged in my favor, which is, I think, which is one of my favorite quotes all time.
Yeah.
Like, if there was something I would put up in my kids' room, it's this one.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right? Because I feel like if you have this mindset, then it doesn't matter how many times you fall
Yeah.
or how many times you win, because you truly believe that you're, like you said, you're the luckiest person kind of walking around.
Yeah. And I also feel like all of these things are quite frivolous, right? Like, for me, one part of me is like, as long as everyone around you is healthy, you're getting a good night's sleep, that's 90% of life,
Yeah,
and everything else is
absolutely.
this last 10%.
So I want to now shift the lens a little bit to the entrepreneurship angle and take some questions that actually aspiring entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs at the beginning of their journey would find very interesting. If you had to look at product, packaging, distribution, pricing, how would you rate these in order of importance for actually building a successful brand?
I think product is paramount. Like, that we will leave aside. Everything else enables product, but product centricity is the reason why companies go from good to brilliant.
Sorry, I mean product quality.
Yeah, product quality,
okay.
right? Like, and especially in food, you've got to be militant. Like, there is no way a consumer is going to accept a product that is bad quality. Like that, you can never build a brand. So the product mindset and putting the consumer, like who are you building for, and is this valuable to that person you're building it for? That's the crux of the brand. When it comes to everything else, right? Like for us, Yoga Bar was all about I mean, I almost tell people we sell happiness because our packaging is extremely colorful. We, like even during COVID, we used to write these things on the box that says, "I hope you're doing okay." And then we used to have this line in our dark chocolate muesli that used to say, "The most beautiful thing you'll see today is in the mirror." And that's a reflection. A brand should truly reflect the personality of the individual behind the brand. Because when it does that, it comes from a place of authenticity that consumers eventually also end up feeling. And if there was anything I could give anybody, it would always be happiness, right? So I feel like that's how to think about the brand. That what is really innate, important to you that you want to give as a gift to the world. On pricing, I have this point of view that you've got to be militant in your operations. Let the consumer pay the least price for your maximum effort. Like in our case, our operations runs like a tech company. Like I have people monitoring raw material prices on a daily basis to make sure that the consumer always gets the best price. So we've not had an inflation adjustment in a food product in 14 years of existence. And the only reason we're able to do that is because we just believe that it is our job to make sure that the consumer gets the best price for the product, right? And with respect to promotion, of course, it's extremely channel specific. I don't think we've personally done a great job of marketing because I've always believed marketing is a bit frivolous, and and we've never been celebrity endorsed or anything. And I would say, like, I would take that money and give it back to the consumer with a lower price. That's just who we are as a philosophy. Again, relating back to, my own upbringing, because I was like, why should I pay for why is this consumer paying for, some film stars? Advertisement. So we've not been a marketing-led company, but in order, I would say product non-negotiable. That's the crux. Like that's the reason people pay you, and everything else. Brand has to be extremely personality-driven. I would say who you are as a person invariably gets reflected. Like you'll see a lot of the people behind the luxury brands. They are a certain way, and it reflects a certain aesthetic and a certain exposure. And I would say that's true of the brand as well. I would say that it reflects your own personality and your own exposure.
So many businesses in India, especially today, I believe, have a fantastic product.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this today. I don't know if I would say this, say, a decade ago. But I
agree
truly
with you.
believe that today the product that India is delivering is phenomenal, outstanding.
Yeah.
And there are so many, and I can talk of my industry specifically, but there are so many that are amazing in quality, have great distribution, have achieved success, but then are kind of stuck at this kind of glass ceiling, right? And if it's happening in my industry, which is fashion, lifestyle, beauty largely, it's happening in other industries.
Yeah.
What does it take to get past that glass ceiling and scale?
When we started Yoga Bar, right, and now we're like the number 2 brand in Maldives, number 1 in Nepal, and we do unaided sales. Like we keep our product there, and people buy it just because it's cool. I've myself personally witnessed standing in the aisle, somebody a Chinese kid actually picking up 25 of our bars, right, in Maldives. So I'm a huge fan of the India story. I think it's just at that prim, it's coming of age. People are going to build India brands for the world. And that's the lens to think about. I would say that the questions that we asked ourselves, and the most Googled question when we started Yoga Bar is Yoga Bar an Indian brand? That's what we need to aspire to as Indians. Like, can this be in like a Selfridges? Can this be in like, Fifth Avenue and still sell? And when we keep our because the Indian today is very well traveled. Like there are certain sections of society who have deep exposure, right? If you want to build a brand that's truly India first, think about whether this India first brand can be also taken to a lot of other countries. Then your style, design, aesthetic goes up 2 notches. Your marketing goes up 2 notches. And in terms of product, I think like there are certain categories which India just does very, very well. Like any of the handmade stuff, like the, beautiful cotton and all of that.
So where do you think founders are where is the obstacle they're facing when it comes to scale?
I I think two or three things. I think, of course, the brand design aesthetics. I think very few people get it. I think a lot of people talk about it, but people don't invest because as Indians, we think it's a waste of money because it doesn't feed into your revenue.
Yes.
But it's really important. It's the reason why people remember you. And that to me is very valuable in building a brand. So I would say my first answer is obviously design. My second answer is because we don't inherently dream large enough. When it comes to a brand, we feel like if certain profits are getting generated, it's fine. But to build largeness, you need to reinvest that profit and you need to see different market, different scope, etc. So I would see sometimes the ambition can be limiting. And third, of course, being abreast with what else is happening in the world, right? Like you might end up being obsolete because the next Indian brought a slightly better product from what you were doing. So to just have like the sense of what is happening in the market and to stay relevant is very, very important for a brand.
What are the 3 signs that a business should look at that tells them, okay, you're ready to scale, you're ready to take it to the next level?
I think obviously one is repeats. For me, like the number one metric is not actually how much revenue or whether this product is successful. My metric for a successful product is actually how much repeat sales are we doing by month 6. So I feel like if there are repeat sales coming, then you're building the base, and the base will only get larger the more you invest. So I would say that's number 1. 2 is the financial health of the business. And when I say financial health, I mean cash flow. Like you recognize your revenue as cash inflow, you recognize your expenses as cash outflow, and see if the business is actually generating cash, and you can plow in this cash and make the business larger and larger, right? And the third metric to know that your brand is successful is in the initial years of starting Yoga Bar, we actually used to receive a lot of inbound love. People would be like, can I take it to this country? Can I do this with the brand? Can I work in any capacity with the brand? So if you're getting a lot of brand love, you're probably doing things right.
Yeah.
See, we had reached a point. Actually, for us, the acquisition process happened over a period of time. We weren't looking to sell the business, and Nestle was very keen to acquire us. So the inbound came from Nestle, and then we all had a chat as investors, as entrepreneurs, as what's right for the business to do. And we said, listen, let's explore this conversation. Let's see where it leads to. And if it leads to something that everyone's happy, so you're not really thinking about it. This thing that I said that if you over-intellectualize things, you probably leads to indecision. So we just meandered, and that whole conversation took a few months. And then after that, at the end of it, we were like, there was this point where we were like, do we need to fundraise? Or should we explore a strategic? And we realized that GT as a market in India is very difficult. You need like a really large sales force. You need to
What is GT?
GT is general trade.
Okay.
Like the certain distribution channel is extremely hard. And for brands to cross over from being like, if you have to be a 500 crore brand, you can't do it without that channel. So it meant raising a lot of money, setting up this channel yourself, or get a strategic in, do like a structured buyout structure such that they help you with the GT, but then they also give you like this overall price for like the whole pie, right? And then we realized that it probably makes sense because strategic can come in and also add a lot of value. So we went down that path of speaking to a lot of strategics. And I think the process of selecting which strategic you go with, because the price is almost, it's very equal. Like somehow the market knows.
Yeah.
The market always prices an asset almost equally. So it never comes down to price. It comes down to feeling comfortable. Who do you feel will do the largest justice for the brand that you created? And, that's how we picked ITC.
How does an acquisition work? Is it like months of paperwork?
Oh my God.
Is it really just billionaires in a boardroom?
No, actually, the word to describe an acquisition is arduous. I mean, to deal with a room full of finance people, lawyers, and to sit there and to negotiate terms, it's really difficult. It's not easy at all. And it goes on for months because you'll be stuck on 3 or 4 points that breaks,
Yeah.
It's like
Make or
break,
Yeah.
And you argue it out, you do your point of view, they do their point of view. And it's a long process. Like between the time ITC started talking and the deal was done was a good 11 months. I remember we started talking in June and the money came in May. So yeah, it's a long process.
What decides how much a company is worth. What decided that Yoga Bar is worth 500 crores?
Yeah. It's obviously because you are pricing the asset based on what all strategics are willing to offer. We were number one in bars, number two in muesli at the time when we sold. So we had a certain market share when we were already talking to strategics. So it was not a pure play, take a revenue multiple and do it. You also price in the fact that the market share in categories that are growing north of 25%, that this company has significant market share pretty quickly. So the price is basically based on, it was a revenue multiple and a multiple based on the market share. That's really where we landed.
Is there something all entrepreneurs should be aware of when they're negotiating an exit?
I think get really good partners on your side. Make sure that you have people have your back. So all of my negotiations, I had an ex-colleague from KPMG who was my ex-boss at KPMG at the table all the time, which was a huge help. And Aditya and me were fronting most of that negotiation. So I also had a support system. And and you need immense family support. Like I would definitely say my sister and mom were always like, listen, if this doesn't pan out the way you want, we want you to know that it's totally okay wherever this lands. Even if it lands nowhere, just you can start all over. So I guess you need to have that emotional support as well.
You built Yoga Bar with your sister, right?
Yeah.
And how was that relationship? How did that kind of...
Yeah. So we also lived together in the US. So it was, and you know that we trademarked it together and all of that. I would say, so my sister's quite a spiritual person in the sense that for her, money doesn't matter at all. I would say that it's great to have somebody who you trust building the business with you. We are really close. So it was tremendous, actually.
Okay.
My husband also ended up joining the business. So during COVID, when one of my, head of online decided to move to Kellogg's, a competitor, and we had negative sales because GT stock was coming back. My husband saw me like super unhappy and said that, listen, I'm going to jump in and set up processes, etc., for your online side of the business. And that ended up becoming a boon. So he, also helped tremendously scale the business, also helped in all of that negotiation. And he's the third founder on so it became like a full-fledged family thing. So my sister and my husband.
So talk to me about when you were in the boardroom, right, negotiating the deal. Did you feel like you had any weaknesses or you're being undermined because of your gender?
No. I mean, to be very fair, at that point in time, I would say the only time I was ever undermined for being a girl was in the initial days of starting Yoga Bar. Like when we used to go to angel investors, people would be like, is this like Martha's Marmalade? Is it like, some neighborhood auntie is doing some business and you just want funding for it, you know? But after that, like the support that I've got from retailers, the kind of I would almost say ITC glorified who I was. They couldn't believe that I had done what I had done, and they gave me all that respect. Like, I would not say that in that process, people negotiate hard because it's their job to negotiate. And that's the lens you need to wear. They are doing their job. You better make sure that you are doing your job and reading through all the fine lines. Everybody has to, you have to be thorough. And I would not say that gender had any role at all. Yeah.
And what about in your entire journey? So you talk about in the beginning, what do you think that at any point of time in your journey did you feel like your gender was a strength or a weakness?
Only in that beginning part when I was fundraising, I was like, oh my God, what is happening? But after that, I would say Indian retailers supported me completely because they wanted a woman-led business to succeed. So I've had a lot of benefit. I would also say that a woman-led business builds a lot more trust. I would actually say now that I'm a little bit more vocal and do these podcasts and all of that, right? I'm not somebody who has a social media handle or anything. But I think when people heard my story, we suddenly saw that people liked being associated with the brand because they like the personality and they feel like they can trust that this person who's doing that job of putting that product on your table has worked tremendously hard to make that happen. It comes from a place of, I actually think it's tremendously benefited me.
Do you manage your own money?
Masoom, I always have, to be honest, even when I was earning 5,000 rupees a month stipend while I was at KPMG, I would still manage my money, and I would take great pride in the fact that I would invest my money also really wisely, even when the corpus was really small. Like, I was able to study the market, take bets that have given me like 10x returns. And I almost made myself self-sufficient with a cumulative income of less than 25, 30 lakhs about 15 to 20 years ago. Just by what I earned through my stipend and like 2 or 3 years as manager, I would say that I was militant. The same level of excellence that I would show in work is the way I would also go about managing my money. Today, that question is less relevant because managing when you have a surplus doesn't require a skill. But having that mindset, even at a point, like I would save a very, very large chunk of my money.
So what would you do?
So I
that
would
5,000
have
rupees type.
like, so 5,000 accumulated over the year is like 60 grand, right? So out of that, like at least 25, 30 would go in the stock market. About 10 would go in an FD because I was obviously living with my parents, so I had no expense. And another, I would save a little bit. The 30 grand would again go into like something else I would keep it as a fund because I wanted to actually buy a piece of land before I finished my tenure with KPMG. And that time, plots of land near the airport were extremely cheap. So I had that plan. I had planned it out. I'd said this much for real estate, this much for the market, this much safe money for the FD, for an FD. And then my bonuses were quite large because I was a good performer in KPMG. My bonus would be like 2x my entire year's salary. So I would save that too in some proportion. And money compounds. Every 5 or 7 years, money actually doubles. Whatever you save in something actually doubles. If it returns about 15%, you're talking about every year that's saving actually becoming double and that double becoming double. So when you're talking 20 years hence, that 60,000 is already worth 4 lakhs today. So if invested wisely, right? And multiply by the number of years I'd saved it. So
How did you have the vision? How old were you then?
it's been about 21, 22.
And how did you have the vision to save and invest? You weren't saving, you were investing.
Yeah. So I've never had a spending mindset because when you live your life thinking that you have everything, you don't find the need to spend to kind of like, you spend for what you need. So limiting my wants is something that is cultural for me. So I don't know how else to express that. But I always had this idea that I can never go and ask somebody else for a favor. It's very difficult for me. And if given the kind of person that I am, I'm not going to go and ask my dad because or ask somebody else to bail me out of a situation. And I knew that when I was very young, like I have a difficulty asking people to do things for me. So how else do you get independent except saving that corpus? Because otherwise there'll come the situation and when you'll have to go and ask somebody for help. And I don't want to put myself in that situation.
So I also came from that.
Yeah, and my dad was actually quite clear. And I think this motivated all three of us as individuals. He said, I need you all to be independent. Like, it's not a negotiable for me. Like, my father quit a very high-paying job so that his kids get educated and become independent individuals. And I mean, the sacrifice that was involved to get there is a reminder that, you've got to live your life in a certain way. Yeah.
How did you know how to invest your money? I know you studied finance.
Yeah.
But I think so many women today struggle with how to invest it and they get lost in that, in translation.
Yeah.
Quite simply put.
So the way to go about it, I also took a lot of tips from my colleagues who were also in KPMG, and because I had a large circle of friends, people would always tell me the right things to do. But a good way to do it is to try and understand. You always operate from a place of curiosity. You say, these are the 5 asset classes. Okay, you'll find that information on the internet. There's fixed assets, there's real estate, there are index funds, there is the stock market. Please don't do options and futures because that's like gambling. You're never going to beat an MIT grad who's playing on the other side. So you only invest what you understand. And you go about, like, there's enough knowledge available on the internet. There is enough level of detail. You see the pros and cons. And until the point where you're comfortable, like the index, right? Like in India, India is a great growth story. The index is a fairly safe investment. It's like investing in the top Nifty 100 stock. And that just has to grow at the rate at which the economy grows and a little bit better, and you'll still get 12 to 15%. It's a very good return, you know. So,
would you invest in the index today?
I have historically always invested in the index. I'm very long on the India story.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where do you think that's going to take us?
I think for me personally, it's going to take, I hope, my wish for India is we become at least number 2 pretty quickly. I think we're right now at number 4. I think we've overtaken Japan, is what I think it is. Or number 3, I don't know. Okay. But for me personally, a 12 to 15% return on my investment is ideal. Like, I don't aspire to do extremely risky things where I will lose my corpus, or also be at that place where I'm just making 7 or 8%. And I think the index is a very safe bet. So for me, I would.
Okay, interesting. Have you had is there one really smart financial move that you made after the sale?
I think there are 2 things actually. One is I ended up only buying real estate to save on the capital gains of the transaction. So we haven't completed the transaction. You know, we had some secondaries at the stage at which we did the transaction. So a lot of that, and India loves you, you know, at that point in time, it was a 24% tax rebate for whatever you invest in a house up to a certain sum. And I feel that transaction played out very well for me because now I've sold it, but I think I made much more than the market, and it was a relatively less risky bet to take. The other thing is I also haven't really spent, I haven't changed my spending pattern. So in that sense, I think that, I don't know if it's a financial move as much as it's a characteristic that ensures that you don't need to be financially dependent ever.
Absolutely. What if you lost it all tomorrow?
It wouldn't bother me actually. I mean, I'm not the kind of person who will actually worry about something like that situation at all because I'm extremely self-reliant. If I had to pick myself up and build it all over again, I think I'll do an even better job.
And what would you build?
I would build in the industry that I've spent 14 years learning. So it won't be the exact same category, but it'll be multiple categories in food, and all of which I think will do really well. I think there is, better products that you can make in multiple categories.
Yeah.
Because of that learning, because I have all of those relationships existing, I wouldn't even worry for a second. Like, it doesn't even bother me to even, like, you said it and I'm just like, yeah, even if it happens, maybe it'll ease me the burden of having to manage something that I don't value too much to begin with. So
Fair enough. What have been your obstacles that you faced in your journey?
I think there was this one instance where, we had to go for this food fair in Germany, and I took my mother along with me. And I didn't realize that because it was really cold, her sodium level started dropping. And when we came back, we realized she'd just fallen really sick, and we were in the ICU for like 2 months.
Oh my God.
I felt that was the only point in my journey where I felt I should never have done this. Like, I feel like it's... it was an absolute point of giving up because miraculously, my mother just woke up one day after 2 months and it was all fine. But I think that was that point where I said that the price is too high. I can't take like people close to me, a health situation of anyone close to me. So if I had to manage my mother, then I would have taken a call to not pursue business anymore, because then I would have full-time just taken care of her. But other than that, the other obstacles are you have the regular ups and downs of business, which are all, which get managed over a period of time.
Have you ever faced rejection?
All the time. I applied for 400. The 400 job application prepared me very well for life. I don't deal with rejection poorly.
How do you deal with it? Again, I'm going to ask you to think about the woman who has very demotivated and think about that kind of.
So the mindset in which I operate rejection is that situation and that circumstance is not working. It's not about me. I never make it personal. Anything bad is never about me. I always operate like that. Like the situation is wrong, or like that person cannot help me at that point in time.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't affect you personally, because then you're like, so, and then my second question soon after that is, what can I do to change the situation that I'm in? What are the options on the table? So I'm very like, almost like a scientific mindset. This happened wrong. These are the consequences. What do you do to generate output?
So extreme logic.
Extreme. And rejection is best dealt with extreme logic and never making it personal. Nothing's ever wrong with you. Like something's wrong with the situation, something's wrong with, it's not working out at that point in time, but yeah, I don't deal badly with it. I mean, of course, in matters of the heart, it's very different. You know, in matters of the heart.
Of course, no, I'm talking in matters of work and business.
Yeah. Which I've also gone through, so I'm quite a pro at dealing with both situations. Yeah, I don't take it too badly.
What is that? You know, I'm sure you've raised money, so you've definitely faced rejection from investors.
Yeah.
Has this been something that has been said that's been very harsh and it's actually come true or been true?
I think I was compared a lot to my male counterparts. I feel like because investors are male, they don't understand that there is only one way to do things. You know, like it is highly probable that an alpha male will succeed because the need to succeed is quite high for society affirmation. You feel you deserve something because you're alpha and you deserve the success, and therefore you walk and you work to make sure you get this outcome, right? But there is another way, and that other way also results in extremely good financial outcomes for an investor, because you do a high trust business. I don't think anybody in food has been able to build the kind of trust and loyalty I have with multiple channel partners. And that is also a strength. And that's a strength that's extremely valuable in my field. It's also extremely valuable in finance, which is why a lot of the banks are led by women. It's also valuable in hospitality because it's also a high trust industry, right? So I feel it's important for people to look at the lens of the skills involved in the person rather than look at it from a gender lens. My valuations were always poorer for being a woman. Yeah. Because people didn't think that I could have that level of ambition.
And what did you do? How did you respond to that?
I mean, I let my work, again, with extreme logic, and let my work do the talking. I would open the balance sheets and P&Ls of every single person people would talk about and say, but look at this. I have, with this quantum of capital, and it's true even today, with the quantum of capital that we raised from a VC, we are the largest business. Like nobody's come close. Like for the capital deployed, it's the best use of money. Like there is nobody else who's built a business with the amount of venture capital money that we've raised. So we were very good. Right today it's a concept. I talked about this concept 10 years back. I said there should be a ratio called revenues to capital raised ratio. And Yogaba will lead that chart all along, you know. And those concepts are picking up today. So I was far ahead of the curve in knowing that for an investor to get appropriate return, you need to deploy, you need to do a 5 rupee journey for a 1 rupee investment. So that, you know, how much capital you deploy also matters.
How did you know this?
Intuitive, I would say it's a bit intuitive to me. Like it seemed obvious because those things seemed a bit more obvious because I was a chartered accountant. So I kind of read balance sheets better. Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
I would also say women operate with a slightly lesser risk mindset. We don't take crazy risk. And that's why it's great that women head banks, because you're better off having a lower risk mindset while leading a bank.
True, very true. If there's one business skill that you think every woman in India needs to master, which they haven't, what would it be?
Getting out of your comfort zone. Like, learn that a lot of things are not going to be comfortable. You need to do them anyway. You have to just build that skill set. Like, and don't feel afraid to raise your hand and ask. You know, Sheryl Sandberg talks about this in her book. Like, just raise your hand and ask. What's going to happen? Somebody's going to say no.
Yeah.
But it's not personal. So I would say that, like, people fear asking, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
If there was one piece of advice that you would have to give to everyone building a business in India, what would that be?
There's actually never been a better time, to be honest. There are tremendous number of resources available, and please get on LinkedIn. Like, I think for the first couple of years, I shamelessly spammed, like, I don't know, I feel the need to apologize at this point in time. I must have spammed everybody in every problem statement that I noted down in my to-do list.
And what were you asking for?
Like, even advice, right? Like, if somebody had built a business before, like, what went right, what went wrong. So just developing deep understanding. I must have spammed every single hotel, every single airline to ask to keep my products there. All the retailer contacts came through LinkedIn. So I would say use LinkedIn. Everyone's on it. It's a professional network. You will find enough help there.
That's an incredible note to end on. Thank you so much, Suhasini, for being here.
Thank you, Masoom.
Really, really appreciate it.
No. Thank you for having me.